What's up, guys? This is Anime Crossover. I'm back with another episode of What Up Naruto with the Speed Guard Part 8. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like. And if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
The God of Speed, Chapter 18, Rio Uzumaki grumbled as she held a bag of ice to her head after collapsing on a car hood. She returned to the hood and fiddled with some wires before yelping and springing back as she electrocuted herself. Rio jumped around on one foot, kicking the fender, before ultimately sitting down in the dirt. Rio shook her head as she glanced up at the night sky at the moon. "You still watch over me even though I ended our contract," she thought as she heard someone approaching behind her. "What do you want, Kaldur?" "We've been talking," Kaldur remarked as Rio took off. "Who are we?" Rio inquired as she returned to work on the car. "The team, Teen Titans and JLD," he said. "You could come back if you want." Rio scoffed and examined the carburetor before closing the hood. "And what does the League say about this?" she inquired as she climbed onto a plank and descended beneath the car. "They don't know about it," Kaldur replied as a light shone beneath the car. "That's not good," Rio remarked as she drew herself out of the water to retrieve a wrench before diving back under. "You saw how angry everyone was when they found out about Justice League Dark." "But this isn't about them," Kaldur said. "It's about the teams you helped build and those who care about you. I thought you learned your lesson when you and the rest of Young Justice went inside my head," Rio joked as she started welding beneath the automobile with her finger. "We just decided to give you a chance to return if you wanted," Kaldur explained as he turned to walk away. "How's Zatanna?" Rio inquired, pulling herself out from beneath the car and sitting up. "She's fine," Kaldur remarked as he returned his gaze to Rio. "Why do you ask?" "Is she still upset about me tricking her father into becoming Dr. Fate?" Rio lamented. "Not that I know of," Kaldur replied. Rio sighed and removed a glove, transforming into a skeletal figure with blue flames. "Has she been back home at all?" she inquired. "I mean, back to her actual house that she used to live in." "Why do you ask?" Kaldur inquired, genuinely interested. "Please, just answer the question," implored Rio as she extended her hand and put on her glove. "No, she hasn't," Kaldur said. Rio moaned and stood up, her head bowed in sorrow. "I'll be right back," she murmured, her voice trembling as she walked into the garage. Kaldur paused for a time before hearing a disturbance within. He was flung back by a tremendous explosion that knocked the wind out of him the moment he opened the door. He gazed up, gathering his breath, at the raging inferno that had engulfed the garage. "Please, please, help me," Zatanna shrieked in terror, leaping from her bed in a cold sweat. "Zatanna, what's wrong?" exclaimed Megan as she and Connor stormed into the room. "Rio," Zatanna exclaimed through tortured breaths, "Rio's in trouble." The following day, the entire Young Justice team met at Rio's garage as Batman spoke with several detectives and Kaldur related the events to Batman. "Rio wouldn't perish in the fire, would she?" Artemis wondered. "No," Zatanna replied. "The rider inside her would make it impossible for her to die by normal means. Superman even took her to outer space and it didn't kill her." "Well?" Robin inquired as Kaldur approached them. "Nothing," Kaldur said unhappily. "Nothing?" Kid Flash inquired. "The bomb technicians found no detonator or point where the explosion first occurred," Kaldur explained. "You don't think she tried to kill herself again, do you?" Artemis inquired. "That's not it," Constantine replied as he approached the group from behind. "What are you talking about?" Robin inquired. Rio was investigating an unusual amount of black magic coming from that building, so she went deep undercover to find out what it was all about, Constantine recounted before looking at Zatanna and saying, "You've seen better days." "She just had a bad dream last night," Megan explained. Constantine approached Zatanna, raising an eyebrow and placing a finger to her brow. He and Zatanna both closed their eyes, muttering something, before opening them to find they were glowing. "Dream world." Constantine observed Rio enter the garage and walk close to a workbench before abruptly stopping. When Constantine heard something behind him, he whirled around and moved out of the way barely in time to avoid a black energy beam. Rio was knocked against the workbench by the beam, forcing her to moan in pain. As she rose to her feet, she transformed into Ghost Rider, who was enraged when a device rolled across the ground in front of her. The device exploded, destroying everything, but Constantine let the dream to burn around him. Rewinding the dream with his hand, Constantine came to a halt just before the bomb detonated and peered at the guy who had stabbed Ghost Rider with a sword, crackling with black energy before shifting everything frame by frame to see the couple vanish just before the bomb detonated. In the real world, as Batman approached, Constantine and Zatanna lurched away from each other, and Kaldur caught Zatanna. "What's going on?" Constantine inquired. "Apparently, our friendly neighborhood Ghost Rider has been kidnapped," Constantine revealed, much to everyone's amazement. "Kidnapped?" Zatanna inquired. "And I recognize the man who did this," Constantine added. Rio gasped in agony as she awoke with the sensation of her skull being crushed to dust. When she looked down, she noticed a fuzzy outline of something protruding from her chest. "Well, you're awake," an all too familiar voice stated. "How are you alive?" Rio inquired faintly. "Did you really think I didn't take precautions in the event of my death?" smugly asked the man in the shadows. "When I perished, I managed to manipulate the Speed Force to send my consciousness to another Earth and into the body of my doppelganger." The stranger scrutinized Rio before chuckling as he moved closer but kept his face hidden. "Imagine finding the same brat who caused Savitar to kill me in the Earth I end up on," the man said as he paced in front of the box Rio was held in. "Little Naruto Uzumaki? Or would you prefer I call you Rio August Uzumaki? Maybe Moon Knight? Or even Ghost Rider?" Rio attempted to morph but found it difficult before crying out in agony when another spike stabbed her through the back and out the front. "I'd be very careful if I were you," the man warned, pointing to the open hatch next to Rio, "because it closes and that speed bomb you're in will blow up everything within 500 miles, not to mention that box is producing quantum energy inside of it, which makes it impossible for you to transform." Rio managed to catch a glimpse of the man's face as she hung her head, barely holding onto consciousness. "Do you want to know who did it?" Dr. Joseph Carver asked as he approached the box. "It was me. The one who made your stepfather mad. The one who drove your stepmother insane. The one who killed your grandfather. The one who let your wife know about that project. The one who hired those men 2 years ago on this Earth." He chuckled as Rio went limp. "I'm the one who told Savitar about your mother." Dr. Joseph Carver was the man that Rio defeated with her world's flash just before she arrived on ours, Robin explained to Constantine as the computer in the cave displayed an image of the man Constantine observed in Zatanna's mind. He tried to merge with the Speed Force but became unstable, with Rio having to use a speed bomb to match his speed to depower him. "But from what I've been told, he should be dead," Constantine asserted emphatically. "We don't know how he survived, but the chances of this Dr. Carver being the same one Rio fought are nearly nil," Kaldur added. T.A. Zatanna peeked out of the corner of her eye, then back at the team as they discussed their next steps. Z.Ta.Na. Looking over her shoulder, Zatanna saw nothing, but Connor was concerned. "Is there something wrong?" he inquired. "Don't you hear that?" she said. "Of all of them?" "I don't hear anything," Connor expressed concern. "It's as if I can hear Rio's voice," Zatanna stated as she peered about, "but it's faint, as if she's in pain." "Then let's make it a lot more clear," Constantine remarked as he waved his hands and a table with a specific item appeared in the middle of them all. "A Ouija board?" Artemis inquired. "This is normally used to contact demons, but what few people realize is that it can also be used by those skilled in magic to communicate with each other," Constantine explained as he motioned for Zatanna to join him at the table. He took Zatanna's hand and placed it on the planchette, holding it with her as everyone looked on. "Rio," Constantine yelled loudly, "can you hear us?" Nothing happened for a few moments, but then Zatanna and Constantine felt their hands slowly slide to the "yes" on the board. "Well, that's good," Constantine remarked, relieved. "Rio, are you okay?" Zatanna inquired quickly. Nothing happened for a few seconds before the planchette began to move again. "Carver, yes, we know about Dr. Carver," Zatanna promised, "but are you okay?" Speed? Constantine inquired, as in the Speed Force? Bomb Young Justice members, including McGann, became pale, and Constantine appeared perplexed. What's a speed bomb? He inquired. Very bad, Wally exclaimed frantically. Rio, can you tell us where you are? Radiation, radiation? Kaldur inquired. You're somewhere where there's radiation? The planchette trembled before crumbling to dust. No, Zatanna screamed, worried, riper, riper, riper. Despite Zatanna's repeated attempts to make the magic work, nothing happened. Zatanna, you need to stop, Constantine whispered as he drew her into a hug. It's gone. But it's not over, Reaper stated as he appeared, drawing everyone's attention. What do you mean? Connor inquired. Dr. Carver, the same Dr. Carver from Naruto's home Earth, has trapped him inside a speed bomb with me as the explosive conduit, Sasuke explained as he removed his mask. Right now, he's manipulating the speed of particles in the air to secure Naruto to the speed bomb and prevent him from breaking out. But can't Rio just absorb the energy the speed bomb gives off again? Magan wondered. I don't think so, Constantine replied as they all turned to face him. Rio had been having me look for ways to use magic to call on the Speed Force's power, and I think she was still trying to regain her powers. A speed bomb is concentrated Speed Force energy that is extremely volatile when set ablaze, Sasuke explained as he typed some commands into the computer to bring up a video of a hydrogen bomb exploding. It's about 50 times more powerful than a hydrogen bomb, and the radiation it gives off is beyond what a human should be able to take in. But Rio did it, Wally countered, she was able to absorb it without any side effects. No, she didn't, Sasuke lamented, and it exacerbated and worsened her speed sickness. What exactly is speed sickness? Artemis inquired. Rio never really told us what it is. It's like radiation sickness, but with the Speed Force instead, Death explained from the corridor leading to the rooms. Overexposure to the Speed Force causes the user to move at speeds beyond their control before they eventually get absorbed by the Speed Force. So, Rio has been using the Speed Force knowingly, even though it would kill her? Zatanna inquired. Apparently so, Constantine observed. From what I could gather from Orchid about Rio, she was always the type to prioritize her own well-being over that of others. Exactly like Naruto, Death lamented. When Sasuke turned her into the Black Flash, it was possibly the only way to stop her speed sickness, but with what Savitar did and forcing him to recall the night his parents were killed, he did return Naruto to his regular state, but he also brought back his speed sickness. Naruto and I are two of the survivors of the lightning strike that struck that hospital when we were babies, Sasuke revealed. When his parents were killed, we promised to always be there for each other when we needed help, and what I did was what he would have wanted to happen. But Rio told us that she didn't want our help, Magan stated. Naruto is afraid of forming attachments because he doesn't want to harm those around him, Death explained as she clasped her hands together, and I am one of those attachments. That evening, Zatanna tossed and twisted in her sleep as a slew of objects flashed over her eyes before ultimately falling asleep. Dream World. Zatanna stared around the vast black space until she noticed a large cube in the center of the room surrounded by lights. Zatanna exclaimed as she walked around to the front. Rio! Cried Zatanna as she attempted to reach Rio but was halted by an unseen wall in front of the cube's open end. Rio lifted her head, staring squarely at Zatanna, before lowering it again. How is my little peon? Dr. Carver inquired as he approached the box, oblivious to Zatanna. Rio chuckled, which perplexed both Dr. Carver and Zatanna. What's so funny? Dr. Carver inquired. Nothing, Rio answered carefreely, absolutely nothing. I'm just finally happy. About what? Both Zatanna and Dr. Carver inquired. I shouldn't have survived that day, 25 years ago, Rio lamented. The Speed Force was what allowed me to live, but it was also going to take it away. As Rio screamed, a tear sprayed on the ground below her head. I have finally found a place to die in peace, Rio admitted, raising her head. The only thing I regret is not being able to spend a little more time with those I care about. Tikatnok toasted. Taperp. Zatanna nodded as she realized Rio was speaking to her. I will, Zatanna answered as she walked away. You lost, Carver, Rio replied weakly. My friends are on their way as we speak. In the real world, Zatanna dressed swiftly and stealthily slid through a Zeta beam platform to arrive at what appeared to be London. Walking a few streets down from Parliament, Zatanna knocked on a door on Baker Street, which opened to find Scandal Savage. I know where Rio is," Zatanna murmured anxiously. Scandal grabbed Zatanna inside a library by grabbing her and yanking her rapidly inside. She threw herself to the ground and glanced up at 3 of the Secret 6 who were seated around the fire she was in front of. Scandal whispered into Deadshot's ear, and he looked at Zatanna with curiosity. "How did you find out about Ghost Rider's location?" Deadshot inquired. I saw it in a dream," Zatanna admitted hesitantly. "She was being held by someone from her Earth, Dr. Carver, and said to contact you and that she was in Pripyat." As expected, Deadshot stated as Cassandra poured him a glass of wine, "We knew about Carver but didn't know where he was hiding. We also considered Pripyat as a possible hideout for him, but this confirms it. Why should we even trust her?" Scandal wondered. "For all we know, she could be here on orders from the League or Waller." "I assure you, I'm not here on either of their orders," Zatanna stated hesitantly. "Prove it," Scandal asked. "How?" Zatanna said before coming up with an idea. "Do you have a Ouija board here?" Scandal motioned for Cassandra to take the object in question, and she did so. She handed it to Zatanna, who set it up and took a long breath. "Or, Ray Ymeciov," Zatanna said calmly. "Rio, can you hear me?" After a few seconds, the planchette moved under Zatanna's palm toward the "yes" in the corner. "Rio, I'm with Deadshot and Scandal," Zatanna explained. "Is she to be trusted?" Scandal wondered. Deadshot chose to speak out because the planchette remained on "yes." "Are you able to transform?" he inquired. Deadshot massaged his chin as the planchette moved to "no." The planchette started shaking and moving again. "We don't have much time left. The bomb will destroy the region. I'll go back to the cave and get the others," Zatanna stated before the planchette quickly shifted to "no, you don't want the team to help?" "It's not safe. There is only 6 minutes left." Zatanna gazed at the trio as the planchette shattered in her grasp. "Go get Ascalon and Caitlin," Deadshot instructed Cassandra. "We're heading to Ukraine." As he spoke, a crow with a crimson eye and 3 tomos in a circle around the pupil looked from the balcony. "We've got the location," Reaper remarked as he returned his gaze to the members of Young Justice, Pripyat. After 5 hours, Miss Martian gazed around as Reaper escorted Young Justice into the village of Pripyat. "Why does this place feel so dead?" she wondered. Back in the 1980s, a nuclear reactor melted down and sent a cloud of radioactive dust high into the air, Kid Flash explained as they continued walking. The radiation spread all over the world, but because this city was closest, it took the brunt of it, and as a result, the entire city has been abandoned ever since. "My place is just up ahead," Reaper stated quietly. "Do you actually live here?" Kaldur inquired. "I'm immune to the radiation, so I can go wherever I want in the city," Reaper explained as they strolled into a building's courtyard. "This is also the one place where I won't run into anyone because only idiots come here." Reaper came to a sudden halt and held his palm out before tackling them out of the way of a sniper's bullet. "What was that?" Artemis inquired as they all took shelter. "Sniper," Reaper said as he drew his shotguns. "Don't move. I'll be right back." As Connor looked up, Reaper vanished into smoke and went to deal with the sniper. "Someone's in the room above us," he explained as everyone gazed at him. Artemis grabbed the initiative as they hurried up some steps, their Geiger counters steadily going off. They got to a room and their Geiger counters stopped working. Kaldur warily grabbed for the door as it opened to reveal Zatanna, who appeared astonished to see them. "What are you guys doing here?" Zatanna inquired. "What are we doing here?" Robin screamed. "What are you doing here?" "Could you all keep it down?" Deadshot requested from a sniper's vantage point. "I'm trying to eliminate this guard." Deadshot pulled the trigger on his silenced sniper rifle before pushing the bolt back and firing another bullet. As everyone entered the room, Connor inquired, "Was he the one firing at us?" "No," Deadshot said, "but I did take out the other sniper." "None of you people ever listen." When they turned on the TV, they saw a fairly static image of Rio, who appeared to be annoyed. "I don't have much time before I lose this connection, so shut up and listen. I'm right on top of Reactor 2, but Carver has another speed bomb set up over in Reactor 4. These ones are even more unstable than the previous ones I used. If they go off, everything between Berlin and Moscow is gone. Sasuke, Connor, Scandal, and Artemis will head toward Reactor 2 with Sasuke while the rest of you head to Reactor 4. Everyone exchanged glances before returning their attention to the television. Now that you've taken that in, Ascalon has a bunch of radiation shields that should protect you from the radiation of the reactors. Sparing lives isn't an option here, so you're going to have to do what heroes swore never to do. Kill these men because any of them can set off the bombs and there's no way to disarm them. Everyone exchanged apprehensive glances once more as they came to this decision. You must hurry, because Dr. Carver is about to detonate the bombs. The TV was turned off, and Ascalon was standing outside the door. He put out numerous radiation shields to the team, sticking his hand into the chamber. As Kid Flash assaulted a metallic ring around the insignia on his chest, they each took one. Kid Flash exclaimed in amazement as he tapped the symbol. That's new, he commented as they fastened the bracelets around their arms. Deadshot fired once more before rising and tossing his sniper gun to the side. Perimeter is secured, he said as he jumped down the hole Ascalon had dug. After an hour, when Sasuke approached her without his mask, Zatanna tried to prepare herself for the job after Deadshot detailed the layout of the plant. He said, "How are you doing?" "Tired," Zatanna said, running her hand through her hair, exhausted. "Fed up with all this stuff." "You sound a lot like Naruto now," Sasuke observed as he took a seat next to her while music from the 1930s and 1940s played on a big speaker from the factory. "I already took a look inside earlier. Naruto isn't looking too good. If the bombs do go off, couldn't Rio just absorb the energy from them again?" Zatanna wondered. "No," Sasuke said, shaking his head, "his speed sickness is already at a critical point. If he absorbs another speed bomb, he'll die." "Why do you care so much about Rio?" Zatanna inquired earnestly. "You haven't seen each other in years, but you act like she's a precious friend. You turned her into the Black Flash to save her from her speed sickness." "That was just me injecting the death element into her," Sasuke stated as he examined his firearms. "It was only temporary until I figured out how to get rid of the speed sickness. As for your other question." He moaned and lowered his head. "I was there," Sasuke admitted, "the day lightning struck the hospital where Naruto was in the NICU." "You were?" Zatanna inquired, surprised. "Not just me," Sasuke replied, pulling out a star-shaped charm. "There were 10 other babies there that day. We were the only ones who survived. All of our parents became close, and when we were old enough, we each made a promise that if one of us needed help, we'd be there for them." When he looked at Zatanna, he revealed her his crimson eyes with the tattoos. "This is my meta powers," he stated. "I can memorize, copy, and even predict the movements of others. Everyone else has their own abilities, but we never told each other. It wasn't until after I started serving death that I found out about Naruto's speed sickness." After putting the charm away, he grabbed a book from beneath his cloak and presented it to Zatanna. "I've been trying to figure out how to get rid of it," Sasuke remarked as Zatanna flipped through the book of intricate equations she'd never even imagined existed. The music ended, and Sasuke donned his mask. "That's our cue," Reaper stated as he flew away, and Zatanna hurriedly flipped through the book before heading to the meeting spot. After 10 minutes, when Dr. Carver heard footsteps behind him, he was watching the unconscious Rio bleed out. "If it isn't the good doctor," Reaper muttered as he was taken inside by 2 guards with weapons drawn. When Carver saw Reaper, he spun around and raised an eyebrow. "We found him outside," a guard remarked before tossing a chain to the ground. "We only found that on him." "Well, I didn't believe it when I heard you survived," young Sasuke, Carver sneakily admitted. "That just proves how narrow your mind is," Reaper stated as he maintained a careful eye on Rio. A guard yelled as he was knocked back by Caitlin Snow, the new Killer Frost, before she turned away. "That should be the last of them," she replied, looking around the room. "Are we almost done here?" "We still have some pieces to put together, but we're almost done," Kaldur replied as Kid Flash ran in. "We're clear for now," he said before stepping out to conduct a continual check of the surrounding region. "Elbmessa," said Zatanna as the machine quickly assembled itself around the enormous speed bomb. "The core must be suspended directly over the middle of the device in order to properly contain it," Ascalon explained as Robin, who was rappelling from the ceiling, brought the device into position. Got it, he cried as Miss Martian assisted him in returning to the ground. Ascalon linked to the containment field's beginning mechanism and began running the program. The containment field's barrier activated, and everyone stood aside as Killer Frost placed her hands on the ground, preparing to freeze the water deep within the soil. Detonating in 3, 2, 1, Ascalon said before detonating the speed bomb. The entire room trembled slightly, prompting everyone to look around before Reaper returned his gaze to Rio. Naruto, I need you to get out of there, Reaper said, get out of that box. We had a deal, Rio whispered hoarsely, get revenge on death. The man who caused my parents' death. Well, let's finish it. Rio shouted as she attempted to shift, and part of her flesh began to burn. Go hot, Reaper muttered as he extended his right palm toward the guard to his right. Artemis emerged from the shadows and shot one of the room's few guards in the chest with a handgun before knocking down 2 more. Scandal emerged with a big shotgun with an axe blade on the end and swung it right into the neck of a guard while Connor knocked another one into the air. A flash of electrical energy flashed through the room, and Scandal's gun was pointed at another guard, blasting off his head while Reaper fired the guards on either side of him. Meanwhile, Dr. Carver had been flung inside the box, landing next to Rio, who yelled as she finally transformed into Ghost Rider. As the room began to empty, the shaking became more intense, and Reaper immediately grabbed the chain on the floor. Naruto, he exclaimed as he tossed one end of it to Ghost Rider, who grabbed it. Reaper yanked as hard as he could, joined by Connor, as they battled the massive magnetic force inside the box. The rods supporting the hatch shook as the rest of the crew, minus Killer Frost and Ascalon, entered the room just as Dr. Carver was beginning to gather his breath. As a result, Ghost Rider looked down at him and grabbed him by the back of the neck. Ghost Rider nodded as he looked into Reaper's eyes. To everyone's surprise, Ghost Rider let go of the chain and brought Carver in front of her, staring him down. As Carver shouted as his body and spirit were scorched, the rods holding up the hatch collapsed, shutting it and emitting a blinding light. Bye, my friends. The speed bomb detonated, but the explosion imploded on Ghost Rider, leaving no sign of its presence. A few hours later, Young Justice, the Secret Six, the Teen Titans, and Justice League Dark sat in a spacious sitting area around a table in the House of Mystery, while Ascalon stood off to the side. Everyone was silent, and finally they began pouring out, not saying anything the entire time. Constantine and Zatanna were the last 2 people in the room, and Constantine left to sleep, but not before looking back at Zatanna with concern. When he was gone, before Jade re-entered and sat next to Zatanna, she burst into sobs. I know it's hard, Jade tried to reassure Zatanna, but Rio wouldn't want us just sitting around all depressed. It's great to see you both here, Orchid said as she came behind them. I have something for you both. Jade took out a tablet and played the sole item on it, a single video. Rio was standing in the parking garage where she'd been working. Wow, what does everyone mean to me? Rio sighed as he looked down on the video. Ever since my parents died, I've only allowed 4 people to get close to me. My adoptive grandfather, Mina, Jade, and Zatanna. Each time, when I let someone get close, I'm terrified of losing them. I don't mean to come off cold, it's just, I don't want to hurt them. I did have friends back home, but I alienated them just like I'm doing to the members of my own teams right now. Zatanna began crying again, despite Jade's best efforts to avoid doing so. Jade, she is one unique individual. My first night here on this earth, she helped me set up everything. My history, my public image. She made me who I am in this world, and I couldn't thank her enough even if we were in the void, where time doesn't pass. I owe her more than I could ever give. She had been resorting to a life of crime to help pay for her mother's medical bills, but that's no longer a problem. You idiot, Jade muttered as she wiped her tears away, you stupid idiot. Then there's Zatanna. I've done such horrible things to her. I doubt she'd ever forgive me for tricking her father into becoming Dr. Fate. But the reason I did that was because I knew it was time. It was time for them both to move on. They were afraid of losing each other, but that's a part of life. Zatanna chuckled faintly as she continued to cry. I fell in love with her because I knew, someday, she'd be faced with the choice of confronting these situations, and I wanted to be there by her side, holding her hand. Zatanna closed her eyes and looked away from the tablet, but she continued to listen. As for everyone else, I'm glad they were there for me, both during the bad and slightly better times. Both women couldn't stop laughing at this. The Teen Titans, Starfire, Cyborg, and Raven. They are the greatest friends and students I could have asked for. With the JLD, I brought them together to unite under a common goal. Protect the world from forces that the Justice League can't see. We have done so much in our own and special way, and I couldn't be prouder of them. Young Justice. My first team. When I first met them all, I didn't like them. Rio took a deep breath and turned away from the camera. With everyone around me, it just seems easier to say things I never thought of saying before. It's one of the things I love about them. They don't need me anymore. They can handle anything on their own because they are fearless, independent, loving, kind. They are, without a doubt, the best people I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. She returned the camera's gaze with a huge smile. I'm in love with you all. When the video concluded, Jade joined Zatanna in sobbing because she couldn't stop herself. Meanwhile, Orchid examined the photo of Moon Knight and the Teen Titans on the wall and discovered that it was still undamaged. Naruto sat up and grumbled quietly as his eyes opened. Stumbling to his feet, he limped out of the alley and onto the street, but paused when he noticed how everything appeared to be roughly 20 years old. He dashed over to a kiosk and picked a paper to read. On October 7, 1990, where the hell am I? He wondered as he gazed at Earth 1's central city. To be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this part of the story, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for helping support, and have a great day.